Good morning, golf fans. It's your boy, Gsluke, here with our round two live stream for this week's Farmers Insurance Open. It's Thursday. Normally, we'd be looking forward to round one, but today's cut day, so make sure everyone gets your mind right around that concept. And here in this stream, we're going to go through everything you need to know, both for Showdown, props, any of your live questions down in chat to get ready to go out there and crush it. Showdown should have a massive edge out here for Thursday. So definitely we'll talk through what that'll look like. And then afterwards for props, and a course that is going to have the same exact setup as what we had for round one. No pins moving, no tee boxes. Weather is almost a carbon copy of what we saw on Thursday. So should set up relatively well for us today. Data is going to be gold. I'm somebody that relies on the data probably more than any other fantasy analyst out there. So let's go ahead and dive on in. First off, welcome. We got Travis down there with an early question, which I'll just answer off the bat, right? He said he's going to be watching this on replay. So just to make it real easy for you to find Travis, if you're going to be picking a single entry lineup, it's all North Course golfers, right? Like you already alluded to. You're spot on there. And then ball striking, right? If you're going to look at one stat from round one and you're playing a single entry, a higher dollar kind of contest, if you're going to tail any solid performance, make it somebody that gained on approach, right? Was able to gain off the tee at this difficult course. And I think you'll have yourself a day. What's going on? Barry says, what's up, Luke? Let's get it. Absolutely. Cheers to you if you got your coffee out there too. I'm sipping on some Dunkin'. It's cheap. It's really good coffee, honestly. I prefer it over some of the sugary stuff like they have at Starbucks, and wakes me up. What's going on, NFT? Will you win all the monies? I hope so. We'll try to at least give you a better chance out here. Carl says, who do you think will come out on top of the South course? I wouldn't play anyone from the South course. So we'll talk about the strategy, but it's not the day to do that. You currently live in New Jersey and do not have access to Underdog or Prize Picks. Do you think if I used a VPN, it would cause trouble? I do think it would, Steven. I think that it's not worth the risk, right? Particularly if you're going to put more than like $100 in there. If you have, I don't want to say too much here, right? Because it's not legal, but if you have any friends in other states, maybe you could ask them. That's all I'll say. Why Win says morning coffee. Absolutely. You got to have one. At least for me, when I'm up this early, I've got to have a coffee. What's going on, Sam? What's going on, Anthony? So first off, welcome on in and let's get this thing started. So taking a look at the golf course, we'll just hop right on into the edge, which I think a Showdown is going to be massive today. You had about a 2-stroke difference between the two golf courses, right? In fact, it was exactly 2.25 shots difference between what we had at the North course, which was the easier of the two, and then at the South course that played just slightly under par. If we take a look at the ceiling performances, you'll see that the top player on the South course shot 5 under par, and that was Nikolai Hogard. You had Nick Hardy also shoot 5 under. And then a few guys at 4, right? Steven Yeager, who we played this week, great course fit, so love to see that. Scott Stallings, right? Former winner at this golf course, went off. Jacob Bridgman did not see that one coming, but not many guys that were able to shoot 4 under or better. So we had the question about the South course and like who I thought would come out on top today. If you're talking about for like a bet, I think a round 2 leader or something like that, in terms of guys on the South course, you might want to go that direction. But for GPPs, for TFS Showdown, right, you should not be playing these guys. There were, 4 guys that shot -4 or better, and all of the players, every single one of them, right, they got to -6 or better. So all the optimal plays for GPPs were on the North course. So sometimes, right, we'll have a difference between the courses, and you'll still see a few players pop off from that other golf course. But that wasn't the case for round one. And on top of that, right, you're just playing with such a disadvantage, right? You only had 4 guys out of 78 that went out there and shot -4 or better. So first off, that's like a point. What is it? That's an extremely, put it this way, it's an extremely low hit rate to even get one of those 4 players. And then to get the right one, right, and pair it up with the right 5 guys from the North course is nearly impossible. So I can almost assure you that the winning lineup today, the winning GPP lineup, is going to be a 6 stack, right? Guys playing the North course, people that just stack that course, don't play anyone from the South course. And I think if you do anything differently than that, whether you're in cash, whether you're in GPPs, no matter what kind of contest you're entering, you're going to be playing at a massive, massive disadvantage. So obviously everyone that's watching this, right, I want you guys to go out there and build lineups the right way. But the rest of the community, right, all the casuals out there, I'm just hoping and praying that they take South Course guys, right? They throw Morikawa into lineups, right? They throw a few guys like Cantlay into lineups, hoping that they still have a spike round, because it's extremely unlikely, right? And even if you get a spike round, it's not going to be the -6s, -7s, -8s that we saw at the North Course, and it's going to be much harder to come by. So that's my take on Showdown in terms of your strategy. I know Travis already mentioned that off the bat, but in terms of trying to find the right guys on the North Course, we'll talk through some of the ownership, right? There's going to be some extremely chalky players like a Nikolai Hogard, who, of course, right, had the best round of anyone on the South Course. They're going to get some attention, so maybe you avoid some of like the really high-owned players on the North Course. But outside of making a few ownership pivots, it's mostly just going to be peppering that golf course, right? Mixing and matching guys from the North Course is going to be how you get to that ceiling performance. In terms of what we're looking at with the weather, it's almost identical to what we had there for Thursday. So you can see low winds the entire day. They do have a passing shower coming in right around midday. I don't even know if we're going to see rain, right? It's a, 1/100th of a tenth of an inch. 1/100th of an inch, right, of rain that they have coming down. It's probably not going to impact play, right? It might just be a little bit of a mist that comes through for a few minutes. But overall, looking very similar to what we had on Thursday, which is why we get into props later on. I'm so excited for this round, right? The pin locations aren't going to change because you have guys going from golf course to golf course. The tee boxes aren't going to move, right? They need to keep it as fair as humanly possible. And because of that, all this data that we have, right? Scoring average, birdie averages, which I have calculated out, bogey averages, all that kind of fun stuff, are going to be extremely accurate, right? Now, the talent level difference between the courses might be slightly off. So you might see these averages change just ever so slightly, but the course conditions that they're playing on and in general, the averages are going to be very consistent. So if you're looking for a weather edge today, I don't really see one. Maybe you shade towards the morning tee times as you typically would, right, at a PGA Tour event. But if we look at like the North Course, for example, you'll see that as the day went on, it actually got easier, whereas the South Course over here got slightly more difficult as the day went on. So it's kind of hard to say why that would happen, right? We're more focused about the North Course than anything. And my theory for this is, right, is the South Course has pure POA. POA grows throughout the day. It's harder to putt on. All that is true, right? So at the end of the day, you would expect that course to maybe get a little bit more difficult. And you can see it got a whole half a stroke more difficult as the day went on, which is a massive difference, right? Whereas the North Course went the other direction. You may ask yourself why that would be the case. Well, they have different greens over there at the North Course. And in fact, they're bent grass greens compared to the POA that you have on the South. Now, I've heard a few people from the agronomy team quoted as saying that some of the POA is creeping in over there on the North, but it's a much more bent grass heavy surface than what you have on the South Course, which might be why it didn't have that same kind of effect, right? In fact, it might have got slightly easier as the temperature went up, right? The temperature gradually went up throughout the day. You had cloud cover for much of the afternoon, which we hear that players on tour prefer, right? Overcast as opposed to a lot of shadows out there and sunny conditions. So it could be any number of those factors. Maybe it was just talent level for the guys that teed off in the second half of tee times. But either way, the South Course got noticeably harder, right, as the day went on, whereas the North Course got easier. So that's why when I said, if anything, right, you'd go after some of the morning tee times for Showdown, but I don't think it's as paramount as you'd see on most slates. Again, the data from yesterday indicates that the exact opposite would have been true. So that's it for the weather, the golf course discussion. We'll definitely go back to the data when we're talking about some of our props, bring up the birdie averages, bogey averages, all that kind of fun stuff. But before we hop into that side, we're going to talk some DFS. So now if you've got any questions about players that you're curious about, let me know down in the chat. We're going to talk through a lot of game theory and ownership as we go through the player pool here. And any of those questions that come down into chat. Let's see what's going on. New to all this, what is a GPP? So by GPP, we mean the largest field contest. So on Draftkings, you'll have the contest with like 5,000 to 10,000 entries for a Showdown. For a main slate, it'll be like a 20,000, 30,000 kind of entry contest. And those large contests are normally extremely top heavy. So we call them GPPs. They're just a different type of contest compared to most. A few of the other ones would be like a single entry contest where you can only enter one lineup. Most of those GPPs are 150 max contests, so you can enter a whole portfolio of lineups. That's also why there's 30,000 entries, right, in that type of contest. So just a different type of mindset, right? Single entries are a lot smaller. You're a lot less worried about winning first place in a single entry. You'd love to win first place, but you still win a lot of money, right, for finishing in like 5th or 10th place in a single entry type of contest. Whereas a GPP, sometimes it's like 50% to first place. A lot of times it's like 35, 30% to first place, which is a lot higher than most other contests on DraftKings. And because it's so top heavy, you're more aggressive in those contests, right? It's almost like a first or last kind of mentality that people have in GPPs. So it's a little bit of a buzz term that we have, and changes it out. And guaranteed prize pool, yeah. And for the most part, when people say GPP, it's not that it's the guaranteed part; it's the big ones, right? So it's a term that people have just used in DFS for the last 10 years, and gets some confusion. I'll say can be large field, lots of entrants, or smaller field. I'd say for the most part, Travis, when people are saying GPP, they mean the big field stuff, at least from my experience. Glad Minwoo ended up going even to the North Course to make that cut. Yeah, if your guys are even or even like +1 or better and heading to the North Course, you're going to be feeling pretty decent about the cut line. I think it'll be a -1 or a -2 cut. Sometimes when you have that pressure of making the cut line, it gets a little bit more difficult on a Friday. Right, today will be a Thursday. Out there for round 2. So yeah, I think -1, -2. And if you're even, you're feeling pretty good. Ain't bentgrass what you find in the South courses? No, it's POA. Pure POA, completely different surface. North course, -179 combined scoring. South course, -3. Absolute dart throw picking guys from the South course. Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to play guys on the South course. That would be a bad strategy. Do I like Eric Cole today? I like him for props. In terms of playing the golf course, no, he's on the South course. So I have no interest in playing him for Showdown. Data Golf shows -4 at 40%. Yeah, I don't agree with that. They don't really account for the 2-course setup all that well. And yeah, they're not the best with that. I would say -2 is probably most likely. I could see it being -1. If it snuck to -3, that would not blow my mind. But yeah, I don't see it going to -4, man, at least personally. Let's go through this player poll up top. Let's talk through some of the strategy that we're going to see for today. And it's all North Course, guys. So it's going to get a little bit tedious. I'm not going to mention that the guys playing the North Course over and over again. Every single player that I mentioned, every single one is a North Course player. So if you have any questions about South Course, guys, and it's related to DFS, I'm going to dismiss those questions because you should not be playing guys on the on the South Course, that is. It's just you're playing with a 2.25 stroke advantage. There's no one out there in the world. Hell, John Rahm, right, is gaining like 2.5 strokes per round to the field. There's no one in the world that's worth playing with over a 2-stroke discrepancy, right? I mean, you might go out there and gain 5 strokes to the field, right? But if you're at a 2.25 stroke discrepancy, oh, great, right? Now you only gain 2.75 strokes. Whereas all you had to do is take some slapdick playing the North Course. And I mean, like, I know we just had a question about Eric Cole. I'd rather play slapdick ass Adam Schenk than Eric Cole, right? The projections are pretty similar. We got like a 41-point projection out there. What do I have Eric Cole's projection at? Or it's blacked out. He's at like 40 points for a projection. I can tell you that off the top of my head. So if they have the same type of projection, one's cheaper, one's also like the same ownership, like you take the North Course guy, right? There's a talent gap difference between Eric Cole and Adam Schenk, but now that he's got that 2-stroke advantage, Adam Schenk's actually the player that you want. So that's mostly the strategy we're going to go through here. Again, if you have questions and it's about a South Course guy, just let me know the type of question that you're asking because, and I'm not trying to be a dick about this, you should not be asking about those guys in Showdown. You should not be playing them, period, today. And that's not opinion, that's just facts out here for round 2. So first off, we got Xander Schauffele up top, $10,700, was hitting the ball unbelievably well. In fact, the reason I know that is I bet against him under 5 birdies. Now, he made 4, so he cashed our bet for us, which was great, but it was sweaty as ever living hell. He missed a putt on 18 that would have gotten him to 5. He missed a putt on 16, I should say. That was about 6 feet long, which is not a putt that Xander Schauffele is going to miss very often. So we just got by there, definitely a little bit lucky. But the guy was hitting darts all day. I mean, when he wasn't within 10 feet, he was somewhere in that 15 to 20 foot range. First hole, I think, had a 3 putt. That's how he made his only bogey on the day. But the ball striking was always there. Almost every shot was on a line. Guy didn't have the ball moving more than 5 yards in either direction, and now gets to play the easier of the 2 courses. So I like that for Xander, right? He's coming with inflated ownership. Something that we're going to mention here too is that all the North Course guys are going to be higher owned, right? People aren't complete slapdicks when it comes to playing PGA DFS. There's going to be people out there that still play South Course guys, and God bless them, right? Thank God, because they're going to be paying the rake today. the thing is that you're going to have so many more people now that are educated about playing Showdown that the North Course guys are going to be double, sometimes even triple the ownership as the guys on the South Course. So it's not a big enough gap to warrant taking shots on the guys on the South Course, but it's an interesting ownership dynamic. In single entries, in higher dollar contests, Xander might be close to 40%. Guys like Max Homa, who I love too, right? His last 9 holes were next level stuff yesterday. He started off horribly. He was like +2 through his first 4 or 5 holes, ended up at -2 for the day. So I like that momentum. But guys like him and Schauffele, in high stakes stuff, might be like 40-50% owned, right? So the ownership's going to be real wonky because of the fact that North Course was so much easier, but it's not the type of slate to pivot, right? You can take some chalk up here. So if you're playing in a GPP, right, one of those larger field contests, you can still take some of your chalk up here and then just make sure you avoid the chalk like Nikolai Hogard, right? If you take your chalk up there in the 9-10K range and then differentiate down here towards the 7 and 8K range, you can make those kind of lineups work. So up top, especially, I'd say in particular, the guys up top are at higher ownership numbers, but it starts to spread out a little bit the further down the board that you go. You got Sanjay here, Minwoo, Tony Finau, Jason Day, Keegan Bradley. All of these guys are playing on the North Course. The ownership's pretty flat, right? You've got between 16% and 20.2% ownership across those 5 players, and they're all just fine, right? I know like Sanjay didn't play all that well. I know Jason Day shot 2 over. Keegan Bradley, another guy that really ended his round well. He shot -3 his last 3 holes, including an eagle on hole number 18. So at $9,000, like a few of them are going to get slightly lower ownership than the rest, but none of them are true pivots, right? The only pivots in this range would be like an Eric Cole at 5%, but he's playing the course that's 2 shots harder. So again, I'm not even considering playing those sort of players today. But like I said, up top, take your chalk. You're going to take some ownership up here anytime you have this kind of scenario. And then down here in the 7K range, lower 8K range is where you can try and find some pivots. So Steven Yeager's also in the North Course. Christian Bezainhout's only 7% and playing the North Course. That's interesting from the ownership angle. Willie Z, right? I got him at about 13-14%. Then down here in the 7s, there are so many guys at the same price playing the North Course that ownership kind of resets, right? Kind of goes back to what we're normally used to seeing on a lot of these slates, where you'll have like a Patrick Rogers at like 6.4%, right? A Svensson who had a horrible day one, right? At 6.3%. You have guys like Taylor Moore, Adam Schenko, I've got it next to no ownership, that make those lineups that are a little bit more chalky towards the top work, right? So rather than taking, an Eric Cole at a huge discount, Cantlay, right, at a huge projection discount, a lot of these other players, I'd rather just pivot down here in the 7s, right? Still take guys playing the easier track that are just a little bit lower owned. So guys I'm kind of avoiding. In terms of high ownership, Nikolai Hogard, there's no chance where I'm taking that kind of ownership. If you're going to play a Luke List, a Will Zalatoris, you can see I'm still playing Luke List. You better be careful about the ownership number. So in a lot of the lineups where I'm taking Luke List, I'm leaving some salary on the table. So maybe I'm starting in the 9K range, leaving an entire 1,000 on the table. That way, taking a chalky guy down here in the 8s isn't nearly as impactful as it otherwise would be. So there are ways to make these lineups work, but my favorite of the bunch is just go up there, take your guys in the 9-10K range, know that they're going to be popular, and then take your pivots down here. So like a Patrick Rogers, right? High birdie percentage player, volatile, right? Playing the easier golf course. Also not that crazy with the ownership. Adam Schenk, one of your top ball strikers from round 1. Had a heck of a round out there at the South Course. I don't have getting that much ownership, which is pretty surprising considering the fact that he had that kind of round. But when you have Emiliano Grillo there, right? Kevin Yu shooting -5, -8, all the casuals aren't going to realize how good of a round that Schenk actually had, right? And a lot of them aren't looking at the approach numbers out there from Thursday, which were top-notch for the field. So I love Adam Schenk at that kind of ownership. You can take the Grayson Sig as a pivot down here at 7,200. Vince Whaley, right, shot +1 on the South Course. You can get him at just 2.4% ownership. There's unlimited options to get different down here. So it's a different slate than usual, right? When we have these multiple course setups, a lot of times the slates can be a little bit wonky. And when one course is just so much easier than the other, it's going to impact our projections quite a bit. It's about a 7.5 point difference between the two golf courses for anyone tracking at home. But on top of that, it impacts ownership, right? It impacts the game theory side of things. And at least with how I'm playing the slate, I think it's much easier to differentiate down low. The only real spots you can get different up here is, again, the South Course, guys, which I don't think is a smart move. You've been smacking the illegal driver. I have, but I'm not allowed to use it with my buddies. So if anyone's not familiar, it's the driver that Bryson was using in that live event when he shot a 58 or whatever. It should be illegal, and I see why it's illegal. It's your misses are like 5-6 yards offline at the very most, and you hit the ball about the same distance you would any other driver. So it's definitely illegal. Thoughts on Jason Day and Showdown? I think he's a decent play, right? Because he didn't have the best day, right? Of the guys in this range, and yeah, a little pun there with Jason Day. He's actually in the lower ownership end, but I've only got him at 16%. So you're not going to get extremely different playing him, but he loves the course, right? He has an extremely impressive track record around Torrey Pines. And he's also really good on POA. So yeah, I like him a lot. You're putting in 20 lineups in, so you can just build one contrarian, I suppose, but that contrarian lineup's probably not going to work. Otherwise, someone in this chat is going to hit one today. Got you. Okay. Any love for Wu or SH Kim in the 6K range? I like Dylan Wu. So if you're talking Dylan Wu, which I believe he might be the only Wu in the field. I'm not sure if Brandon is playing Torrey Pines, but yeah, I like Dylan Wu quite a bit. Let's see. I know he's cheap. Yeah, down here at what, $6,700. He's actually a player I have highlighted here that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Yeah, playing the North Course, only 1.8% owned. I like him over SH Kim because Dylan's a little bit longer off the tee than what you have with SH, and the better iron player. So yeah, love Dylan Wu. I don't hate SH either. SH is a surprisingly high birdie percentage player that makes a lot of birdies, right? They post pretty decent fantasy scores, even when he's not the best strokes wise. Like he'll go out there. I know he shot -3 yesterday. I believe he had 6 birdies over there at the South Course, which is impressive. Thoughts on what the cut line will be? Let's bring up Data Golf. I'm not as bullish on them going low as I think Data Golf is. So I'll show you guys what Data Golf thinks first, and then I'll give you my thoughts. So you can see they've got it like -4, -3, or -2. I think it should be -3, -2, -1, right? So I think that these are all off by maybe one stroke. It's just the pressure of trying to make a cut, right? Particularly at a high-level golf course like what you have with Torrey Pines. You're going to have that little bit of nerves out there for trying to make the cut. And when you have 4-inch rough awaiting you for any miss, it's going to lead to some bogeys. So this might be accurate. I'd say, right, if you're trusting the stats, -3 looks like the most likely. I think the most likely is -2. So we'll see how it shapes out. But that's those are what the projections are saying as of right now. Let's see. Michael Block must have heard what you said and was like, watch this. Hey, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while, right? Or else blind squirrel would be dead out there. Now he's got to play the South Course. We'll see how it goes for him. Let's say that. Thoughts on Bjork today? I like Bjork. Bjork's a ball striker, right? And we're looking for somebody with birdie or better upside. North Course, only 3.5% ownership. Love Alexander Bjork. Block on to shoot +8 today. Yeah, exactly. I'd be surprised if he made the cut. And if you thought I was being disrespectful to Michael Block by saying he's not a professional golfer, that's just facts. The guy's a teaching professional, right? Trying to play on the PGA Tour. They can have their days. It was an easy golf course, right? He played the North Course with 0 wind and wet conditions. Again, the blind squirrel finds its nut every once in a while. That's for sure. Cut was even here last year. Exactly, right? Now, the conditions are playing into that, Thomas, right? That's why it's going to be a lower cut line this time around. But that's also why I think it'll be -2, right? It's high-level golf course. When you get under pressure and you start missing at a course with 4-inch rough, it means so much more than just missing a green at the Amex, right? These guys, they went under that same pressure last week after round 3, and a lot of them were missing greens and still getting up and down. Now it's going to lead to some bogeys. So technically, since he shot better yesterday, his strokes line will be a little bit lower. Yeah, for sure. It will be, yeah. He's up, 74.5, so that's 2.5 over par. It's not all that much different than his 71.5 projection that he had from the day before. So, right, that's 3 strokes higher, and the golf course he's playing is about 2.5 strokes harder. I actually say they set his line a little bit harsher than what they had for round 1. So if it was going to be the same, they'd probably put him at 74 strokes, but now they posted him at 74.5. So it's almost like they went the other direction, right? They know that he's going to come back down to earth. So no, they actually went the other way with it, right? Because he's playing on a course that plays even par, and they've got him 2.5 over. Yeah, they made it even worse. So, yeah, they don't think he's going to play very well, put it that way. So, if you think he keeps up what he did yesterday, then take his under, but I would not be. I'm not taking his over. For full transparency, I'm not betting Michael Block today, but if I was going to bet him, it would be on the over. There's zero chance I would take the under. No chance in hell I'd put my money on Michael Block to shoot a score around the South course. He was complaining about Rory McIlroy's distance, right, and not being long off the tee. And it's a 7,700-yard golf course with 4-inch rough. I mean, he's not strong enough to hit it out of that rough. Yesterday, I think his fairway percentage was like 10 for 14, which is really good. He hit a lot of fairways. I think that's why he played well at the North course, right? If you hit the fairway, it's pretty straightforward. The South course, if he doesn't do that again, I mean, he's fucked, right? He doesn't have the length to play a golf course like that. And he'll be the first to admit that. So we'll have to see how it goes. J-Day bounce back? I think so. I'm playing him in Showdown, that's for sure. Do I think Straka will make the cut? I think he's got a good chance. He's got a good track record here. So we'll go over the course history. I'll show you why I think he's got a good chance for a bounce back. And he's somebody a bet for props, Thomas. So I'm invested in that, and him going out there and trying to make the cut. So $8,700. His course history here, you'll see he's gone T16 a few years ago and went T32 the year before that. Did miss the cut back there 4 years ago, but had a T13 back there in 2019 there for Sepp Straka. These finishes were before he became a good golfer. Right, when he was going out here and making the cut, finishing T16 even, especially when he was finishing T13, he was an unknown like 6K player, right? I mean, this was a guy who wasn't a tour winner back there in 2013. He was a guy that you'd maybe at most pay $7,000 for any given week. And he had a good track record here. So that tells me that this golf course fits his game rather well, which makes sense. He's long and straight off the tee. It's why he plays well at the Honda Classic. Won there, finished in the top 5 his next time playing. And I like him at this type of track. So he's on the South course. I would not play him for Showdown, right? So I know I mentioned before, like I think he's a decent play this week. I would not play him for Showdown because he's on the South course. But I think he's got a chance to make the cut, right? If he goes out there, he shoots -2, -3. That'll be probably right around where the cut line is going to be. It's a tough course, that's for sure. But I think he's got a chance, right? He's done it in the past. He's made the cut. He's good on POA. Yeah, I think he's got a good shot at it. You have him in your week long? Yeah, me too. In bounce back, I think so, right? A lot of these guys that had quote unquote shitty rounds are just good golfers, right? So he's going to the North course, right? He played the tough South course yesterday, and only losing a stroke to the field isn't that bad of a round, right? Like I know it looks bad in comparison to Aberg, right? That was playing the North course, right? It's a 5-shot difference, but there was a 2.25 shot difference between the golf courses. So yeah, the ownership is going to stay moderate on guys like Sungjae Im because people think he had a bad round, but losing 1 stroke to the field is far from a disaster, right? In Morong, just out of here, drops out. Yeah, he went to Live Golf. I'm not sure if you saw that. There's a good reason why he didn't play. He's changing leagues. Thoughts on Woodland? He seems viable at that tag. Yeah, maybe a little bit early to come back just because we don't know if he's still rusty, right? He was dealing with the brain injury. But yeah, it's a decent price tag. And just to show everyone else here, I think he's in the 7K range, right? Lower 7s. Oh, actually, upper 6s at $6,800. Worth a few shots. He's okay on POA. He's actually better than his baseline over here on POA grass. So yeah, not the worst play for sure. Wrote one question down for you this morning. Svensson, is he aggressive? You like him a lot, and what is my opinion? I do like Svensson. He is an aggressive player, a high birdie percentage player. Is he on the North course? And I'm assuming he is, right? Because you asked. I grilled anyone that was asking about South course guys before. Yeah, $7,600. I know he had a pretty crappy round, but he lost 3 strokes to the field at the South course, which isn't great, right? I mean, 3 shots lost is a pretty crappy round. 1 shot lost, not that bad. 3 is starting to get pretty bad, but it's not disastrous. Like that happens on tour, right? You're going to lose 3 strokes to the field every once in a while. Yeah, I could take some Svensson. Which 2-on-2 do I like more? My apologies. Still a little bit sick here. Sorry for coughing into the mic. We have List and Svensson versus Jaeger and Bezuidenhout. I like the first one more. But that's close. I really like Steven Jaeger. I do think he's going to get some ownership, though. So I'd go with the first pair. And they're all North Course guys, right? Yeah, they're all North Course. Yeah, I'd go with the first pair. Thoughts on Daniel Berger? So Daniel Berger might be in a little bit of trouble. He's going to the South course and he only shot even par at the North. Anytime you're coming back from injury, I have concerns on whether you're going to have all the ball speed. And it kind of looks like Daniel Berger's swinging at like 90%, right? Which is understandable given he had a back injury, right? A lot of that because of how violent and curved his swing was. So not my favorite golf course for him. And especially not that he's playing the harder track. Who do I think will have the biggest comeback today? Probably like a Sanjay, right? It like screams, Sanjay comeback. If we're going to say comeback for Jason Day, like, he shot +2. I could see him shooting -6, -7 today. So yeah, probably like one of these guys, like a Sanjay, a Jason Day. In terms of other guys that we could classify as a comeback, if anyone's going to do it on the South course, it's maybe Sahith Theegala. But his ceiling round, right, is like a -3, -4. So I think if Sahith makes the cut, you could say that's a pretty solid comeback. Same thing with Sepp Straka, right? If these guys were to go out there and rally to make the cut line, that's a really good day from them. But if you're talking about for showdown purposes, right, trying to find somebody to pop, it's probably Sanjay or Jason Day. One of those two is going to go low. Barank is getting paid, absolutely. And he tried to say it was a illness, right? He went onto his Instagram and said that he was sick in the morning. He was sick of getting that live bag. That's what I'll say. Hoping Sahith can ball out on the South course. Yeah, me too. Agreed with you. Exactly what you wanted to hear. There you go. Any thoughts on Semikawa? I like him because he's on the North course. In terms of like a skill set, he's not a particularly good skill set fit at this type of golf course, but he seems just like your average to above average tour player, right? He's not got full status, right? He's somebody that's coming over from the Japan tour, but has played exceptionally well. Yeah. I mean, I think he's decent. Willie Z Showdown viable? I think so. I played him for 4-round stuff. So yeah, I think you can play him for Showdown. Can Vegas nut up today? Probably not, right? Isn't he like +6? I played him in our community contest. I took Vegas this week, and he was one of like my sneaky plays that, he was in the player poll. I don't think we talked about him at all in the live stream, which was partially by design. I know he's another guy coming back from injury, right? So Will Zalatoris, he's got the injury that everyone knows about. Daniel Berger, Johnny Vegas was out for a hell of a long time too. So he shot +6. He's not making the cut. I mean, if he does, he goes out there, shoots like -9, then I'm going to be thrilled, but it was sloppy. I mean, he played the South course, which did him no favors. Double bogeyed here, duffed a chip shot, it looks like. The other par 3, he almost duffed a chip over the entire green. You can see it stayed on the green at least, but then went out there and 3-jacked from there. Yeah, he's rusty as hell, but I got to say, no one runs hotter than Johnny Vegas, right? He's the type of player that gets first-round leader way, way more than his peers. I'd say at like a 2-3x rate. Like Johnny Vegas normally either goes out there, shoots +6 or -6. So if anyone's going to do it, and again, I think there's about a 0% chance he goes out there and makes the cut. I guess it would be Johnny Vegas. What happened to Bobby Mack? He's just not good. Data Golf was really low on him coming into this year. I don't know why. Honestly, I've heard good things about him, right? He almost won the Scottish Open. So I always thought he was a better player than what Data Golf was saying. But all of their projections on him, like long-term stuff, are not good on Robert McIntyre. So I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not sure why they've soured on him so much. But, I mean, he's been horrendous, right? He's missed like every cut he's played on the PGA Tour. Last week, even at Birdie Fest, he had a few rounds over par. And I know he played the South course, right? Tough track, don't get me wrong, but 78, like, ugh. I don't know, man. Let's look at his shots gained, right? Maybe that'll give us an idea. He lost 7 strokes putting. What the? Oh, my God. Yo, pour one out for my boy Robert McIntyre. Do we have Stevie Wonder on the greens? You played him too, buddy? Yeah, I think I did too. I think you're talking about Vegas, right? But I played Bobby Mack this week video. He lost 7 strokes putting in a single round. He gained on approach and off the tee. Like, that's what we want to happen, and then lost 7 strokes putting. What in the... Did he have, like, a broken putter? Does anyone know? Did he just, like... Look at this. So, hole number 1, right? It looks like he hit the green. They hit the green, and then he 4-putted. Did he break his putter on hole 1? And is that why it was so bad the rest of the day? Like, I think there's a legitimate chance, guys, that he broke his putter after 4 putting or whatever the fuck this was on hole number 1. And that's why he putted so bad. And if he broke it, that means he can't use another putter. Either way, I'm not playing him, even if he's on the North Course. I mean, that is just extremely scary. And I haven't seen that for a long time. Like, you'll have guys that lose like 5 strokes putting in a round, but 7.3 strokes in a single round is a tough scene for our boy Bobby McIntyre. That's for damn sure. Your 150 max 3 line, you have Cantlay, Morikawa, Lowry, Rogers, Siwoo, and Vegas. Lord help you. Yeah, I mean, up top, it's pretty damn sick. I mean, even SH Kim having a week for you. Yeah, dude. Let's get Vegas a nuclear day for you. It'll help me out too. That's for sure. You played Mac and Showdown today. You can't putt that bad again. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think I'm with Jonathan there. 7 strokes putting lost. Put it this way. I hope he broke his putter. I hope the reason why he lost this 7 strokes putting is because he's putting with a wedge or something like that, because I could beat that. And I'm a terrible putter. Guys, I make fun of my own putting all the time. I'm actually a pretty good iron player. I set up a lot of birdie looks. I make almost none of them, even from like 5 to 10 feet, because I'm a dog shit putter. I could beat 7.3 strokes lost. That's losing a stroke like every 2 holes, like every 2.5 holes, something like that. I mean, that's bad, okay? That's really bad, guys. All right, let's talk through some lineup construction real quick. If you have any questions on players, let me know. And then we're going to talk about some props. So we'll go through prize picks, underdog, all of that afterwards, and a little bit of course analysis too. But before we get there, let's go through some lineup construction, which, because of the 2-course setup, is going to make making lineups a little bit tougher. So just to give you an idea of some of the chalk up top, like if you're playing North Course, guys, you're going to be taking 20, 25% ownership at pretty much all of your spots. So just know that, right? If you go down here, start with the Xander, maybe your second man in is a Sungjae Im, right? Who I think could go out there and have a bounce back day. Your third man in is probably still going to be chalky, right? So obviously, I think you might want to avoid Hogard because he's going to be the highest owned of the bunch. But even if you go down here and take a Luke List, or maybe you even go a little bit more expensive and you take a Keegan Bradley at $9,000, right? Make this more of like a studs and duds approach. It's like 20%. It's like 16% on an M. It's a 26 to 30% owned Xander Schauffele. You're going to have a lot of chalk up here. And unless you're taking guys from the South Course, which again, I think is about the most bonehead move that you can make out here for round 2 Showdown, you're not going to get leverage up top. So just accept the fact that you're likely going to be taking higher owned players and then differentiate down here in the 6s and 7s. So we went through a few guys in the 6 that I like. So let's go ahead and throw, I'm going to give you another one, Garrett Kigo, playing the North Course, an extremely aggressive player. You could take him for leverage, right? He's going to be sub 2% owned. Essentially, no one's using him. He's also giving you some salary savings. So you go up here towards maybe the top end of the 6s. If you can stomach taking Johnny Vegas and Showdown, hell, you could even throw him into lineups at like sub 1% ownership. I know Nick Wright will be playing some Robert McIntyre. If you do that, you're going to have all the leverage you need. So if you throw a Higo and a McIntyre into a lineup, you could take whoever the hell you want to here at $7,300, and you're going to be different enough to the field. So I think some people, when they're building lineups, think that you have to get so different to the field to not duplicate yourself and to get that leverage, when in reality, 2-3 pivots are enough to even offset some of the chalkiest of chalk. So this is how I'm building. I'm going to be leaving some salary on the table in lineups. So just find another North Course guy in this range, go with them, and that's how I would handle a lot of your lineups. If you're building for cash, I would probably just hammer this 9K range. In fact, if you wanted to play like all of these guys from the 9K range, or maybe just like 3 of them in the same lineup, I'd be more than okay with it. So maybe you just take 3 of them, then you live down here in the 7s. You throw in like let's see, a Svensson, maybe a Patrick Rogers. You finish it off at $7,100. The balanced build kind of feels like the way to go about it over the cash side. So 2 different approaches to building lineups. Your GPP lineups are going to have a higher cumulative ownership than you'd like, just because of the North versus South Course thing. And the reason for that, and I feel like ownership projections for Showdown are the Wild West, right? I've been doing them for 3 years. There's only been recently sites that are starting to do Showdown projections, and oftentimes they're way wrong, right? I've been doing this for 3 years. I'm just going to share my ownership again for some closing thoughts over here from the DFS side. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I track some of the other ownership projections, especially for Showdown around the industry. Mine are way, way more accurate, right, than the other sites out there. It's not even close. A lot of them use my projections. I can tell and then mold their projections around them, which I find quite flattering. There's 3 sites I actually know that do that at this point, which once again it's flattering, but at the same time, it's kind of sad, right? That I'm the only one who's been doing this for the last 3 years. I can tell you for a fact that these ownership numbers on the North Course are probably too low. I would not be surprised to see Xander into the 30%. I would not be surprised to see Max Homa at 30% ownership, nearly 30% on a Finau, right? 25% on some of these other guys in the higher dollar stuff. So depending on what contest you're entering, right, just know that. Like, if you're taking this edge out here, which is going to be a 2-stroke advantage, you're going to pay for it on the game theory side, which is why I think fading a Nikolai Hogard, for example, these guys that are maybe even like a Steven Yeager here, right, like 15% ownership, is so important. Is having a way to get different to the field is going to be extremely important down there in the 6s and the 7s. And if you're playing in like $100 single entry or anything from that tier and up in terms of your showdown, you're going to see 50% ownership on some of these players. So like those guys you're taking in the 6, 7K range are going to be much more important today than any other slate. So up top, just pick your guys. You don't have to spend a bunch of time there. Spend your time on your pivots. Like, vet them, go through their shots gained, right? Make sure they're gaining on approach, because that's where you're going to win and lose the slate. Everyone's going to be playing the same guys up top. And if you're not changing it up top, you're going to have to figure it out. He's one of us. Yeah, right. We can't make those birdie putts, and apparently McIntyre can't either. Your week long, you've got Hogard, Bjork, Pavon, Homa, Thigala, and Straka. Best of luck out there. Yeah, I think you're close on all of your guys, right? They're all at least a couple shots within the cut. Best of luck out there, man. You got Campos, and give me your thoughts. All right, let's look at his shots gained. I'm always down to look at one of these lower 6K guys and look at their shots gained. Okay. Let's bring up the data golf side. They have better stat keeping than what they have on the PGA Tour site, which is just crazy, but it's true. Live tournament stats. There we go. And it's Campos, right? Campos, by the way, been around for a long time. He's, I think it's like his 4th time getting a tour card. So someone the other day was mentioning that he was like new to the tour. And I'm like, yeah, you're casual. You don't watch golf, right? If you think Rafael Campos is new to the tour, new this year, right? He got his tour card back, but definitely not new. So he lost strokes putting. He gained on approach, gained around the green, gained off the tee. Old man Campos having himself a day. He's not long off the tee either. And he went out there and shot a 70. I've seen crazier things. I mean, he's good. I mean, he's nearly won tour events. He nearly won the Puerto Rico Open last year. I think 2 years ago, he almost won Corrales, which another long golf course. I could see it. Seabez, yeah, I like the fact that he's on the North. One of the reasons that you paid for the Patreon is the Showdown ownership. Yeah, and again, not to toot my horn too much. If you do a comparison, it's not close on other sites. A lot of other sites, especially for like Sunday Showdown, they can't seem to figure out that the placement points extremely impact ownership. And it's, I don't know, if you do it long enough, it's not crazy. Thoughts on taking 2 6K guys and riding the higher dollar North Course chalk? Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was saying, Philly, right? Is up top, you just take the North Course chalk, right? I'm saying how chalky it is to make sure that you know you have to pivot down low. I'm not playing any South Course players in my entire player pool, especially not towards the top end of the board. And you just kind of got to eat that. So, yeah, I agree with that. And 2 6K players is a real good way to get different. Bobby says, Michael F. Block, suck his dick even more, bro. He doesn't want you. I've been watching you the last 3 years. Of course, yeah, you're a regular down in chat. We know that. And you might want to wipe your mouth, Bobby. You have something over it, apparently. All right, let's go through some of this stuff over here in Underdog. And obviously, I'm just fucking with you, Bobby. Out there on your knees for Michael Block, apparently. Let's go through some of the prop side of things and what we can do out here for round 2. So like I was mentioning off the bat, these stats from round 1 are going to be extremely useful. Pin locations, tee boxes aren't moving. Our weather situation is almost identical to what we had on Thursday. So using these field averages, they're not the gospel, right? They might fluctuate a little bit from day to day, but you're talking about minimal fluctuation, right? In terms of scoring average, it's going to be somewhere between like 2.4 and 2.2 under par, right? I wouldn't expect it to move more than maybe a tenth of a stroke in either direction. For the South Course here, Same thing, right? Maybe it plays 0.15 strokes under par. Maybe it plays a 0.05 over par. I don't see it fluctuating by more than like a tenth of a stroke. So you're going to see a lot of consistency here from round to round. And that's going to give us a lot of data that we can work off of. So going over here to the underdog side, there's been a lot of bumps, and a lot of my early action was on these North Course players, right? So the guys playing the course that played 2.29 shots under par, and we're at 4.5 birdies. So you had a guy just like a Keegan up at 4.5. You had a Akshay Bhatia at 4.5. Jason Day, who else was it? A Minwoo Lee that was also down at 4.5 birdies. And just to give you guys the birdie better averages, North Course was 4.61 out there for round one, and the South Course was 4.21. Sorry, 3.21 out there for the South Course. So over an entire birdie difference between the two golf courses, about a 1.4 birdie difference between the North and the South Course. And you had guys like Minwoo, right? Jason Day, all these guys we took at 4.5 birdies that were projected below the field average. Now, a Keegan Bradley was a top 30 birdie maker on tour last year. Akshay Bhatia was a top 20 birdie maker on tour last year. Even Jason Day, who's not elite anymore, was still a top 30 birdie maker in this field. Pretty much all the guys they had posted at that number were guys that were projecting for 5, sometimes even 5.5 birdies on Prize Picks. So just to give you guys an idea, right, they have Minwoo down here at 5.5 birdies, which is a pretty good comp to some of the other guys at 4.5. That's where almost all my exposure is right now. So we're going to go through some Prize Pick stuff, but all of the value in Underdog, I think, has been bumped. And now the value is really over here on Prize Picks, because the Underdog board has been priced lower in terms of strokes, but they were also posted lower in terms of birdies. It made no sense, right? So they were being more bullish on a player shooting low on strokes, but they were having them making less birdies. Which again is just completely backwards, right? If you're going to put lower strokes lines, you'd probably assume that they're going to post higher birdie lines. But apparently Underdog doesn't understand the math of golf, like simple 4 - 5 type of math, right? To go out there and set strokes projections. So, and because you can't take like 2 overs and birdies together. So like, for example, you can't take like Jason Day birdies with Akshay Bhatia at 5. Like that's something that they're not going to let you enter. It's like a useless board. Like I had 2 slips I entered with some unders on strokes. It was a Sepp Straka. I took at 71.5, and they also had Eric Cole at 71.5 strokes. Both have since been bumped down to 71. Getting rid of really only of the strokes value out there. It's an annoying ass board. So actually, it looks like Sahith got moved to 71. That's not the worst under on strokes. In fact, we're probably going to add that to a slip here in a little bit, but a lot of the birdie stuff is moved. Where the value is on my end is over here on Prize Picks. And this is where we're going to put together a little stream slip. I really like this Xander under 67.5, and I don't mind. Let's mix a North Course and a South Course guy. So let's take Xander Schauffele and under 67.5, and then let's take, who else do we have up top? It was Colin Morikawa under 70 strokes. So the reason why I'm putting a North Course guy with a South Course guy is simple. It's for the payout. So if you mix the 2 golf courses, you're going to get 3x out here for 2 unders on strokes. Whereas if I wanted to take 2 North Course guys, and I do like Sanjay under 68. You guys probably saw me like throw him in here at first. You're only going to get 2.75x though, right? So it's a lower payout. You probably want to stick to the 3x stuff. So by taking these 2 players, you're getting the fullest payout that you can, almost like you're taking an over and an under on strokes, and 2 players that I think project rather well. So we'll do some line shopping here in a second. I'll show you guys their projections of like DraftKings and FanDuel and why I took their unders. Let's see. Do I see an advantage in starting on hole 1 to get 9, 10, and 11 for a streak? You're saying on hole number 1, right? Let me look at it. I honestly, it's not something I thought about before, so it's not something I'm personally playing, but you might be onto something there. Let's take a look, right? Actually, Data Golf is probably the best place to look. So let me bring up Data Golf, and you're saying on the North Course. So let's see. All right, so North Course 9, right, would be the last hole of your front 9. Is about a 47% birdie rate, 52, and then 36. Whereas if you started on 10, right, you don't have that ability, and then there's not really crossover going the other way. I would say there's some utility there. Yeah. Now it's not a massive difference, right? You're probably talking about a half a fantasy point, maybe a fantasy point difference, right? between going with wave by wave, because not everyone's going to make that birdie streak, right? I mean, even with these easy birdie numbers, probably only like 5% of the field is actually going to get it done, right? From holes 9 through 11. But I think it's a little bit of an edge, right? Especially if you're trying to like break a tie between two players, they're almost identical across the board, and then one starting on 1 versus one starting on 10. Take the one starting on 1, right? That hole number 9 is the main reason that we have this advantage. And again, it's hard to quantify, but I would use it to break some ties. Thoughts on Thigala plus 350 for a 3-ball? Well, he's playing against Cantlay, and then who's the other one? So let me check Hard Rock Bet for you. I think it's okay. Like, I don't know who the other one he's playing is, though. So let's find the third. I'm sure. I was watching him yesterday, so I should probably remember. Yeah, it was Morikawa, right? Yeah, if you're going to bet anyone in this group, it's Sahith Thigala. Plus 350 it seems like pretty decent odds. Let me check on Data Golf for a second. Let me look at their betting tool and see what they think. Again, I'm pretty new to doing 3-balls and stuff like that, right? Florida only got legal sports betting back last year. And before that, I was only doing outrights on some of like the offshores. So I'm not as versed on this stuff. And I like to see what they think just to kind of like confirm my thoughts. So let me find the Thigala group on here. Again, this is behind their paywall, so I don't want to show it. A lot of the rest of the industry has them priced lower. So there are books that have them at plus 225. There are books that have them at plus 320. They have that as slight negative EV there. So they don't love the bet. They have them priced at plus 355 for true odds, which is actually a little bit worse, right, than the plus 350. But if you compare that number that you're getting to the rest of the sportsbook industry, you're getting the best number available right now at plus 350. So that's available on Hard Rock Bet. So you might be somebody that also only has access to Hard Rock Bet. If you're going to bet them, you do it over here on this site, right? Where you can get the best odds available. Now, I'm going to put it in the shopping cart at least. I don't know if I'm going to fire on this myself, but yeah, that's a good line. That's for sure. Any punt plays to consider? I thought we went through a few, but let me remind you. So in terms of pure punt plays, Vince Whaley, Dylan Wu, and Davis Riley. So yeah, actually, we didn't mention Davis Riley. That's right. He's a North Course guy, has high birdie upside. You can take him. And then Hayden Buckley at $6,300. Buckley's a ball striker, right? Kind of has to get the hot putter to have a ceiling round, but something that he can definitely do. All right, let's go through this stuff on Prize Picks. So this is going to be the main stream slip for today. We're almost done with the live stream here. So if you have any questions on props, let me know. But this is what I'm thinking for Prize Picks, right? You mix the two courses, you find a way to get that 3x payout. And in terms of the line shopping, right, that's what we're going to go through next year. Let me show you where they have these guys at. So Xander, they have it 67.5, ever slightly juiced towards the over. So we're taking the under. So we're clearly taking like the negative EV side. But I truly think that DraftKings is wrong here. So at least they have them at the same number. There's a few other guys that they have projected an entire stroke higher than what they have over there on Prize Picks. But at the very least, Xander's at the same number. And then the other one's what? Morikawa, who I believe is juiced under 70.5. Yeah, you can see they have him at 70.5. But he's juiced way under. For today, I don't really trust the books with their pricing, like kind of like I was saying there. But it's good to at least use them as a reference point, right? If the projections are the same compared to the sports books, I would lean the under on almost every single prop. These guys over on the sportsbook sites, I've been tracking them to start the year. They've only been right about 35% of the time. The other 65% of the time, the DFS apps have had the better pricing, have had the sharper pricing comparatively. And at this point, it looks like the sports books don't put in nearly as much effort as what you see for these specialized sites. And I guess it makes sense. The volume is going to be pretty comparable for DFS versus some of the sportsbook apps. And the sportsbook apps have a lot more categories to worry about, right? They've got to set live tournament lines. They've got to double check those, make sure their algorithm isn't fucking up, right? Matchups, right? They have to post all these matchups, 2 balls, 3 balls, 6 shooters, right? They're even starting on this bullshit out here, right? They don't have as much time. They might have more people right out there, but they're not taking as much time on some of the stroke stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's something I started tracking here in 2024. Last year, sports books just started to become part of my process when it came to golf. And now that I'm learning that the sports books aren't very sharp, First off, I wish Hard Rock Bet would start posting these so I could exploit them, right? Because on a day like today, for example, like that Xander Schauffele prop, right? It's like plus 100 towards the under. I would hammer that, right? If I can get 1-to-1 odds on him to go under 67.5, I'd be going absolutely ham on that kind of prop. So I don't hate that. I believe Xander was at 67 strokes over here. Yeah, right. He's at 67 over an Underdog. Like, I agree with that projection, right? I think Underdog probably has the sharpest projection in terms of Xander Schauffele for today, which is why I would take him over here on Prize Picks, right, at that 0.5 higher. So that's it for there. Let's look at FanDuel. They also have stuff posted. Let's see where they have Xander at. Not Alexander Bjork. So they've got him at minus 140 towards the over, which, again, is the same as DraftKings. I disagree with them there. And then the other one's Morikawa, who I believe is also at the same projection. Yeah, you can see, right, he's at 70.5 and juiced minus 150 towards the under. I agree with the juice there, but it wouldn't surprise me if they put him down at 69.5, closer to lock. So those are the two plays on Prize Picks. Let's find a pairing for this Sahith prop. So I didn't think we were going to have a strokes prop to take, but yeah, definitely one I'm going to consider. So in terms of trying to find an over for birdies, we're going to need to find somebody on the North course. I'm not as bullish as the guys on the South course. It's a much harder course, not nearly as many wedge opportunities as what you're going to have on the other track. And he puts the hit at 3.5. That might be a look. What do they have him at 4 over here in Prize Picks? There's a lot of people betting against Sahith, it looks like. And I mean, I kind of get it, right? He played okay round one, where he shot like the field average. Well, actually, a couple shots worse than the field average. But don't throw it past him to have a bounce back. That's for damn sure. So let's throw Sahith in there. Find one more. What do they have calling out in Prize Picks? 4.5 birdies. Yeah, there's been some late movement here, and I don't agree with the line movement. Like, Colin Morikawa at 4, the field average was 3.2 at the South course. I think we're going to take this. Let's see. Any other strokes prop that really stands out? They got Hideki at 71 now. Yeah, I'm liking this movement. It's making this Underdog board a lot more playable than it was before. So yeah, Hideki is probably not a play. Actually, he's at 71, isn't he? Ooh. Like, that's potentially a play, right? Taking Hideki Matsuyama under. Okay, we might be able to cook up a few slips here, actually. I'm liking whoever's moving these props up, God bless you, because conditions are the exact same. There's no wind once again. So I vehemently disagree with that. So rather than taking Thagawa, I'm actually going to take Matsuyama just because he looks sharper in round one. And we'll make this a little slip over here for Underdog. So it's an over on Morikawa at 4, raise at 4.5 on Prize Picks. The main idea here is that we get a lot of push equity with him at 4 birdies, and he gains routinely over 0.8 birdies to the field. So I project him for just over 4. He's also playing particularly well. His irons were on point yesterday, and you still have 4 par 5s to work with. Now, they're not as easy as the ones that you have at the North course, but then you also have holes where he's going to be able to throw darts at with these perfect conditions. So I love the Morikawa over, and then this Hideki one, right? He's at 70.5 on Prize Picks, right? Yeah, 70.5 on Prize Picks. The lines aren't crazy in our favor, right? He is 0.5 lower over here on the sports books. But once again, even if I could get this plus 110 for the under 70.5, like, that's a prop that I would take. So I should certainly feel okay taking this one over here on Underdog. So let's go ahead and throw those in for a little $100 slip there. So we've got that slip that we entered. We've also got this one over here. If you want to differentiate a little bit and maybe don't get as heavy on Colin Morikawa, maybe you take a Sahith over here instead, right? Rather than taking Colin Morikawa, spread out your exposure. Don't go too heavy on one player versus the other. All of those would be fine options for today. So that's all I've got. Let's see what you guys got down in chat and hop on out of here. What we got? Bobby, I'm glad that you're taking it the right way. I'm not going to read it, but you understood what I was saying. All of the studs on the North are 10 off, or off 10. Okay, that's interesting. So they're not going to get the advantage starting off 1. I think it's like a half a point, maybe a fantasy point difference. It's probably not that enough to keep you off the studs, right? Thoughts on Keegan under 68.5? Well, if we compare it to the sportsbook odds, let's see what they think. But I think it's one of the better projections, right? It's right at where the sportsbooks have it priced. Again, I think that it's going to play easier than what the sportsbooks think. So, yeah, I could take that. Didn't have the best day, but again, shot -3 his last 3 holes. So has the momentum for sure. Block is a Cali guy who crushes SoCal courses. He doesn't crush SoCal courses. He's a 0 for 5 on cuts at Torrey Pines. And his best round ever before yesterday was a 73 on the North course. So I think you're getting bad information there. He's only covered 74 and a half strokes in 3 of his 15 rounds around Torrey Pines period. And both of the times he covered it were on the North course. So I disagree with that. I don't think he owns any courses. Good luck all. Absolutely. And Block doesn't crush anything. Ball belly. Exactly. He does not crush anything. The only thing he crushes are Bojangles sandwiches, that fast food chain that he was working for. Maybe it was somewhere else, but I know he was working for that fast food chain. He probably crushes a lot of chicken sandwiches and beers. Those are the only things that he's crushing. That's all I've got for today, guys. Best of luck out there with your lineups. May Michael Block miss the cut. I'm legitimately rooting for that. He's a douchebag. And maybe we go out there and have ourselves a round 2. Best of luck with DFS. Any props you're entering. We'll be doing the same things for rounds 3 and 4 in terms of a morning live stream. And let's get on after it. Smash the like buttons, subscribe so you don't miss when we go live in the future. And let's have ourselves a day.